Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're diving into something really important for a lot of men, especially as we get older, prostate health. And we're going to focus on how the food you eat can have a massive impact on how you feel, day in and day out.
So, let me ask you this. Have you been finding yourself waking up more often in the middle of the night to use the bathroom? It's super common. But what if I told you that what you're eating and drinking could be a major factor? Yep, your diet plays a huge role. Let's get into it.
Okay, so first things first, let's talk about the problem itself. It's really important to know that changes to your prostate are a completely normal part of getting older for most guys. Seriously, understanding what's going on under the hood is the first step to feeling more in control.
All right, a quick biology refresh. What even is the prostate? Well, it's this small gland that's part of the male reproductive system, and it sits right below the bladder. Its main job? To produce some of the fluid that makes up semen. Simple as that.
So what happens as the years go by? Well, for a lot of men, once you hit your 40s or 50s, the prostate just naturally starts to get a bit bigger. And as it grows, it can start to press on the bladder and kind of put a squeeze on the urethra. That's the tube that urine passes through. That pressure? That's what leads directly to those all too familiar issues. Like a weaker stream or feeling like you have to go all the time. But here's the good news. Your diet can make a huge difference. Think of this as the game plan in a nutshell. On one side, we've got the stuff you might want to ease up on, like red meat and beer. And on the other, the all-stars you want to bring into the rotation, like oily fish and tomatoes.
Right, let's jump into the first part of the solution, the foods and drinks that are probably best to enjoy in moderation if you're looking to support a healthy prostate.
The number one thing to keep an eye on is saturated animal fat. We're talking about things like red meat and processed stuff like sausages and bacon. The advice is to maybe limit those to just once or twice a week. This category also includes things like butter, pastries, a lot of fried foods, and even meat that's been heavily char-grilled. Now, here's where it gets interesting, with some stuff you might not expect. For example, beer. It's made with hops, which contain something called phytoestrogens. Those are just plant compounds that can kind of act like estrogen in the body. Then you have diuretic drinks. Think coffee, black tea, and fizzy sodas. Diuretic is just a fancy way of saying they make you need to pee more, which obviously isn't ideal if you're already going frequently. And for alcohol, it's best to limit most kinds. But hang on, because there's one pretty cool exception we're going to talk about in a minute.
Okay, enough of what to avoid. Let's flip the script and talk about all the great stuff you can add to your plate. This section is all about the powerhouse foods that can actively support your prostate health.
The foundation for a prostate-friendly diet is actually pretty simple and delicious. You want to get plenty of oily fish like salmon, herring, or trout. They're packed with amazing omega-3s. And then just load up on a whole rainbow of fruits and vegetables, plus pulses like beans and lentils. Just think color and variety. And if you want to level up, here are some really powerful additions. Garlic and onions are fantastic. Seeds are your friend. Sunflower, pumpkin, and linseeds are super easy to just sprinkle on salads or yogurt. And turmeric, with all its anti-inflammatory goodness, is another brilliant choice. I want to put a spotlight on one antioxidant in particular, lycopene. It's the natural compound that gives foods like tomatoes, pink grapefruit, and papaya that beautiful reddish color. It's a real key player for prostate health, so maybe think about having some more tomato sauce or a side of grapefruit with breakfast. Hey, remember I mentioned an exception in the alcohol department? Well, here it is. Turns out 1 to 2 glasses of red wine a day might actually be beneficial. Why? Because it contains these things called flavonoids. These are natural compounds that help limit how much testosterone gets converted into a more potent form that can affect the prostate. Pretty fascinating, right?
So, we've talked whole foods. Now let's look at a few specific natural substances that have been studied for the role they can play in supporting prostate health.
First on the list is probably the one you've heard of before, saw palmetto. It actually comes from the berries of a small palm tree, and its main claim to fame is helping with those urinary symptoms tied to an enlarged prostate. It's all about supporting normal urinary function and flow, especially for guys over 45. Next up, we have common nettle root. You might know this one by its other name, stinging nettle.
The root extract from this plant is often used as what's called an adjuvant, which basically just means a helper. It helps to manage some of the urination problems that can crop up with an enlarged prostate.
And the third and final substance highlighted for us is the bark of the African plum tree.
The benefits here are also all about overall function. It's noted for playing a real role in maintaining the normal function of both the prostate itself and the entire urinary system.
Wow, okay, we have covered a lot. What to eat, what to limit, even some natural supplements. But if there's just one thing, one big idea I want you to walk away with, it's this right here.
3 times. The research we're looking at found that eating too much saturated animal fat could potentially triple the risk of developing certain prostate issues. Just let that sink in. A 3 times higher risk. That's a really powerful number and a very, very compelling reason to take a closer look at what's on your plate.
So, at the end of the day, the big takeaway is that small, simple changes can really add up. This is not about completely reinventing your diet overnight. Not at all. Maybe it's just swapping one meal with red meat for some oily fish this week, or adding a handful of pumpkin seeds to your breakfast. So I'll just leave you with this question to chew on. What's one small change you're going to make to your plate this week? Thanks so much for joining me.